This lens is only $100. I am impressed. Salut, I'm Peach. I saw a few reviews about that lens recently, the TTArtisan 40mm F2.8 Macro. Something like 10 reviews, and some say that it is super sharp. All say that it is very cheap, it's around $100, and very few say that it has a big problem, a big flaring problem when shooting against the light in some angles. So I thought that lens could be very interesting if used properly, because at 40mm you can actually use it for other purposes like street, landscape, portrait and more. So I bought this one, and I got it for $95. I think you could probably have it between $90 and $150 depending on when and where you live. This is definitely a very cheap price for a lens that can be used for other purposes as well. And at that affordable price, you also get an interesting aperture of f2.8 that will help a little bit in low light situation. And at that f2.8 with the 11 aperture blade, you could potentially get some very nice out of focus background. We will see some photo later, but for now, let's have a look more closely at that little lens.
And here you have it mounted on my Fujifilm X-T5. It feels solid and heavier than you would think at that size and price. Mainly made in metal except for that sort of lens hood that extends out of the lens itself, and except for the mount cover. The weight is 361 grams. This lens is 62mm large, 76mm long and 119mm fully extended. So as you can see, there is no electronic contact. You must control the focus and the aperture manually. There is no sealing gasket, so it's not weather sealed. I guess you cannot expect too much at that price. Here you have the aperture ring, f2.8 to f16, placed at the base of the lens. It has some nice clicks, and that's good. Actually much better than my $150 7 Artisan's 60mm macro, which has the aperture ring placed at the front of the lens without clicks. Then we have a focus ring in metal as well. Rather pretty good, smooth with a bit of resistance. It's precise for macro, but for more distant subject it is harder to focus due to the very small amount of focus ring rotation from 1 meter to infinity, as you can see. And this is some kind of lens hood in plastic that protrude as you focus closer. I saw a YouTube video of someone removing it in order to get more working distance. They show that you can unscrew the inner part counterclockwise. I tried, but mine is very well screwed. There are 2 tiny holes in the plastic inner part, probably made to help with a special tool. The filter thread is 52mm, and the lens cap is in metal and you can screw it, and I like it.
This lens is available for a lot of brands actually. Fuji X, Leica L mount, Micro Four Thirds, Nikon Z, Sony E and Canon M mount. So the big problem about that lens is the huge amount of flaring or even a ring of light that appear depending on the angle from where the light comes. The good news is that the vignetting and the distortion and also the color fringing are very well managed. You will see just a little bit of vignetting around f2.8, maybe until f4, but very few at f4.
Now let's have a look at all kind of photos taken with my X-T5, starting with macro photography. And as I always say, if you can see some details in the eyes of a mosquito, then your lens is probably sharp. So this is straight out of the camera. an uncropped RAW file converted in JPEG, not edited at all. Yes, the butterfly that you saw at the beginning of the video is actually dead, killed by that little white crab spider. That's the one. Again a JPEG converted from RAW, not edited. Original size but at 1:1 this time. Here you have the victim again, a bit closer. And here I zoomed in so you can see some details. So far they are all original pictures without sharpening or anything. A few moments later I came back and I took this one. The butterfly was on the ground. This is one shot, a bit edited and a bit cropped. A little bit, no crop, but edited a little bit. If we zoom in, you can see that it's quite good. You saw only single shots so far, but I made a few stacks as well. We have a 5-stack hairy ladybug. This is 2 stacks of whatever this is, maybe ladybug's larvae. If you have an idea, please let us know in the comment below. This is 26 stacks of a tiny empty shell. Sadly, it's a bit hazy in the foreground, or maybe I messed up with the bracketing process. Back to single shots. During my week testing every day, I was happy to photograph 3 nice subjects that I rarely or never saw before. Like this Tagiades japetus, commonly known as the pied flat or the common snow flat. Probably the Tagiades japetus titus. I even managed to have some blue sky in the background. I saved this parasitoid wasp from the swimming pool, so she can continue to kill babies insects in their eggs. It's called unside wasp or nightshade wasp and some other names. Original photo, no crop. I took many photos while it was drying off. Those are a bit cropped, just enhanced and edited a little bit. I like the nice background with the giant bokeh balls. This insect has really some uncommon blue eyes. This last one is a bit more edited. All the macro photos are taken between f8 and f11 by the way, with a flash. Except for those 3. So you have at least 3 examples of a macro photo taken with a natural light. And what about very small subject, you ask? This is kind of small at 6 mm. This is maybe 3 or 4 mm. This is 3 mm. 2 mm. 1 mm large. So yes, a bit harder to fill the frame at 1:1 for those particular subjects. So can you use a raynox or extension tubes, you ask? Yes, but with the raynox DCR250 you sadly cut by half the working distance, so you have only 2 cm left. Your magnification ratio becomes 1.2:1 instead of 1:1. That's not good enough. With 27 mm of extension tubes, you also go down to around 2.3 cm of working distance, but you get a higher magnification ratio of around 1.6:1, and that is a lot better. So I took that shot with the extension tubes. A last photo that I took while filming myself, a bit more artistic maybe. And now let's see about the major problem with that lens. Sometimes when shooting against the sun in a special angle or with some kind of reflection, this is what you get. During my week testing the lens, it happens a very few times, like here with that series of photos. This is something that I never experienced before, or at least at a much lower level, if ever. And you will see that it actually happens a bit more when you are not doing macro, but only, or should I say mainly, when shooting against the light. So I went to Bokeh, which is a famous place in Puerto Princesa City where people like to eat, walk, run and enjoy the fresh air. And I took that photo at f16, trying to get all in focus, but I may have focused on those buildings, I guess, which is not a good idea. So the general image looks good, but with f16 comes a lot of diffraction and it's normal. What I want to show you here is the not so good left side. You may think that this is because it's a lot further away, but the right side is also not so good, and this is something that you may see in other photos if you pause the video and look closely. So this is Bokeh. We are against the sun. The picture itself, it's not good. There is nothing in focus here. But anyway, this is to show you the place, and this is what you will see in a lot of pictures as well if the light is in front of you. I wonder if this is because of the internal shape of the lens hood actually. Now a few better images with things in focus. Beautiful, I love the general silver tint of it. There are some rays of light crossing the picture, but here same reflection again in the corner. That could probably be corrected, I guess, in post. Now, what about the blurry background, you ask? This is something shot at a certain distance, at f2.8 I think. Very nice bokeh to me. Now closer at f4. Now very close but against the light at f2.8. This is to me a very nice bokeh. And this is what was blurred in the background of the photo you just saw. Very nice color and sharp both. Last one where you can see a mix of all the problems. Some would say that this lens has character and that it has a lot of artistic traits. Everyone is different. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If we look in the middle, it's quite nice. If we look at the left part, again, not very good. There is a bit of color fringing up there, but compared to my Canon RF 35mm, this one is doing great actually, regarding the aberrations and the fringing stuff. I just showed you the problems that you may have with flaring, but you can take good photo as well. Here is a few of them without too much issues. A last word before I tell you my final thoughts. If you want to try macro photography, this is amazing and can also produce very nice and magical photos of other genre. At $100 this could be your first macro lens and can be very fun if you get used to manually focusing. That said, you will take a lot of photos not in focus that you will throw away. Also, if you need a macro lens because you shoot macro 3 times in a year, this one is cheap and will do the job. You may even find a good one second hand, for example. This lens can produce a lot of bad photos with flaring problems, but can also take amazing photos. Now, final thoughts.
So if you can manage the flaring problem and you are okay with having a bit less of contrast sometimes when shooting against the light, in some cases, in some angles, then that lens is very good for macro photography. I find it very compact, very well built, very small, very sharp. But I would still prefer to buy the Kingfisher. I would still prefer to buy the TTArtisan 60mm macro because it has a bit less of that flaring problem. And if you want to see a review about it, just click on that video. And thank you for watching. Cheers!